Hi all, this is Skate, and today we are going to be playing in the Type 62. Now this is a tank I haven't played in a while, for no reason purely other than I've just been playing other tanks, the new Batchat line. So I kind of haven't played this in a while, but I've seen a lot of comments recently asking for a video on the Type 62. One of them was from someone called Snowman Productions, which had 8 likes on it. So I thought, hey, I'll do one. I haven't played it in so long. It would be quite fun to play it. And I'm so glad you guys have been liking that comment and asked for a Type 62 video. I forgot just how much fun this tank is. It is an absolute barrel of laughs. And the gun is, well, one of its main highlights. Because, aside from the fact it has fantastic DPM for a light tank, in fact, it has the second best to the Walker Bulldog having just over 2,500, this thing having just below 2,500. So with your food and your rammer, you will get 2,499 DPM on this thing, which is very nice. In perspective, all the other tier 7 light tanks have less than 2,000 DPM, so this thing's got an extra 500 when you've got the correct provisions and rammer on top of the other light tanks. Then you've got to combine that with the fact that this thing has a blatantly overpowered heat penetration. Now, when you're firing premium, you have reduced DPM, as everybody knows. However, when you fire nothing but heat in this thing, your DPM goes to 2,125, so that's still more DPM than the AMX 1375, than the SP1C, than the T71, and the LTTB. And that's fire in the heat. But the difference is the premium ammunition on this thing gives you 250 millimeters of penetration. That is blatantly overpowered premium ammo. And it's the exact reason why this thing has the nickname Heat 62. Because you see so many drivers firing nothing but heat. And because this thing's a premium tank, you can get away with it without really wasting credits. However, heat is not always the answer, because, well, you can't track things. Going to the side of spaced armor, you're not going to be able to do it. There are big drawbacks to it. But to be fair, 250 mil of penetration at tier 7, it's hard to argue about those trivial drawbacks in comparison to, well, the amount of gains with that level of penetration. You'll note from these replays I don't fire an awful lot of heat ammunition. The reason for that being quite simply, I don't think it needs it, and I think using the tank in a certain way, you don't need to use nothing but heat. Honestly, when you're in a light tank and someone's firing heat at you, you can't help but just laugh almost, because you're firing heat at a light tank. It's just not needed. Now, there will be times in these replays where I do load the heat, and I will highlight when that is, because I think certain circumstances, certain tanks rather, require it. However, you'll notice we're in a one-on-one versus an IS-2 here. I haven't fired any heat, and the reason for that being quite simply, I don't think it needs it. You'll notice we didn't shoot at the front when we came straight around. We went straight around the side and then shot into the side. And then with the track there, we're doing damage while penetrating with the AP, which is exactly what this tank needs to be doing with its mobility. So yeah, you can reduce your DPM and up your penetration values, but do you need to? I would rather have that extra DPM. Or rather, you got the choice. However, don't just load nothing but heat in these things, please. I just think it's completely unrequired. Like with that IS-2, you could just sit there spamming heat at the front of the thing and play the long range. Or you could have more fun, get up close and personal, and circle it round and round and round again. And that, by far, is easily my favourite way of playing the Type 62. And every tank requires minimap awareness. I think it's important. But when you're playing a tank like this, I think it's even more important, because you need to watch what is going on around you. And more importantly, you need to be finding on that minimap those lone heavy tanks and lone tank destroyers. They are the bread and butter when it comes to this thing, Because in a one-on-one, up close and personal, you can absolutely obliterate them. And it doesn't matter if you are bottom tier or top tier, it's done exactly the same way. In fact, however strange it sounds, I think this thing is better suited to being bottom tier, because you've got more things like IS-6s, IS-5s, IS-3s, IS-3 Defenders, all the big, old, heavy, slow tanks, which don't traverse the fastest. And you can just pick them apart. Obviously, the key to doing that, though, is being able to get in up close and personal. If you just run in headfirst across an open map and there's other things around it, you're just going to get obliterated. So that is the hard part. I think circling a tank isn't really the challenging part in this thing. I actually think getting to that sole target is the challenging part. And that's where you need to use cover, allies if you have any left, or anything to that effect. But I'll go through that a little bit, well, when it's on the screen. Dealing with medium tanks, however, is a different story. Half of them have better DPM, better penetration levels, and have the mobility to keep up with you, a bit more weight to ram you. So I think, personally, mediums are the things you need to be more cautious of than any other. If you can see them charging towards you, I would always say to make sure there is cover there to avoid that horrible, nasty ram. If it's something like a Panther, well, I know I'll take 1 or 2 shots off it, but I'm confident to get in close to it, because the only thing that Panther would have to shoot at then is the same as just like heavies. The only thing they have to shoot at is your turret, which, with a bit of wiggle, can avoid an awful lot of shots. But I would always say to try and keep some cover between you and mediums, or some sort of close range cover, so you can at least park behind another dead tank, a rock or something, so they can't come guns blazing headfirst in front of you. It's almost the same thing as this Tiger. You'll notice I didn't take a direct route, otherwise he would have been able to get a clear shot on me. Instead I weaved, used the rock, and then used the ridge right in front of that Tiger to then pop up right next to him. You'll notice I also avoided the wall. Yes, I could have gone straight through the wall, however, I would have been stuck in a situation there where I would have reduced my speed quite a bit, which means I would have taken a shot. The other interesting thing about the situation I'm in now is that Tiger has stuck his tracks so close to the building he can't traverse around, which means he can only swing his turret round. If he just pulled forward, then he wouldn't be stuck in the situation. But you can see he was just about to pull forward, sadly a bit too late. Now that has brought it back into a 3 versus 3 situation. However, the SU-152 can dirt me in one shot. The Hellsin, if he fired HE and hit me correctly, could still clip me basically in one shot. And the same with the IS-3. They could take me in one shot. However, Hellsin didn't know I was here. Hellsing is now dead. Now, I mentioned earlier not approaching something in a direct route, especially if they can one-shot you. If you can afford to take the shot and you know it's worth taking that one shot, then yeah, get in there as quick as you can. However, what I'm trying to do now is to do the exact opposite of that. Because I know for a fact that IS-3 is going to be pushing on my friendly tank, because that's the only thing he has to shoot at. And that's exactly what he's doing, which means I'm now in a completely comfortable situation up close and personal to him. So you've got to assess the situation. If you know for a fact there's a heavy tank distracted by a friendly, get in there quick, get in there close, and you'll get in no problem at all. If you know they're going to turn their attention to you, do what we did with the Tiger, weave like mad using the cover as you try and get to them. It's the same with this SU-152. Now, I'm going for the track shot. We thankfully get the track shot. That doesn't always happen. But now we're behind him. That's pretty much end game for this guy. It doesn't matter where he goes, what he does. There's nothing he can do to get me off his back. And that's going to be end game. And that's why I'm saying with this tank, it's strongest up close and personal. That's not the challenge, is being behind them. That's the easy part. Like I said at the start, it's getting to them to get yourself in that location. Now, obviously, you can't always pick off the lonely targets. Oh, by the way, if you look at the credits from that one, that's why I don't fire heat non-stop in this thing, because it's unnecessary. And I just made 88,000 credits. Also, half the shots I would have fired in that game would have done track damage and no penetrating damage. In fact, we only started firing heat in that one at the very, very end because we'd completely run out of the AP we were firing. And that is the potential drawback to me carrying 15 heat in this, which is more premium than I would usually carry in a tank. But with 145mm on the AP, sometimes you're in a circumstance where you don't have a choice and you've got, say, one or two very heavily armoured IS-3s, IS-5s, IS-6s, IS-3 defenders, all of those sorts of things, where you have to hit the front of it. And with 250mm, you're not going to have any issues at all. Now, in terms of gameplay, this is where I think this game starts to go horribly wrong for me. I'm being rammed out by an IS-5. I say negative, and he does reverse back. Also says negative for some reason. And my reaction at this point is, I am out of here, I am not risking it. But he does say sorry, so I have no hard feelings. And it just so happens that guy ends up being a very, very good team player. Mistakes were made at the start, it doesn't matter. Now, for those who are observant of this game so far, you'll notice that this IS went past us, and nothing else past us, which means he was all on his own. Which means he is now alone, while we can just completely and reliably and comfortably circle him with that whole close range game. And I genuinely think it is so easy to deal with heavy tanks in this thing, which is a bit of a blessing actually, because let's be fair, there is a bit of a tier 8, well actually and tier 7 dominance towards heavy tanks now. You see a lot of them, especially premium heavy tanks at tier 8. So having something like this, where you can use your mobility and your crazy traverse while maintaining high speeds to go and pick on those things, well, it's a very advantageous, very nice situation to be in. The problem comes, however, when you have a cluster of enemies, and to be honest, I will just avoid that at all cost. For example, that entire enemy team is all on the left-hand side. You can see them all there. I have absolutely no interest in pushing into that many tanks. What I'm going to do is pick off the one who's remained at the back. This time it is a tier 8 medium. And being as I cannot circle that thing because of where it is, I'm just going to use this ridge in front of me. And I'm going to pop up and try and get several shots into his tracks to keep him here. I may take some return fire, but I can keep this guy here and address him. And we're isolating him from the rest of his team. He can't run away. And that is the thing then. The IS-5 comes in and takes the attention. That is the same IS-5 from earlier, which accidentally rammed me. He turns out, like I said, to be a very good player. Now, with a heavy tank next to me, if I'm sitting out in the open next to that IS-5, they're obviously going to fire at me first because I am an easy target. And I'm easy to pen. That being said, if I stay behind a wall like I am here, they focus the IS-5, who has the armor to handle those shots coming in. And while he is handling the shots coming in, I can be support fire for him. It's like this Tiger. IS-5's gone in head first, I've gone around the side. I've got a couple of flanking shots on this Tiger, and I'm supporting that IS-5 rather than an IS-5 now supporting me. And that's crucial, I think, because like I said, if you sit out in the open with the IS-5, they're going to pick you every time to shoot at this thing, because you are easy to penetrate and do damage to. Now, on the surface of it, this sounds like a very, very selfish way to play, but it's not. If you think about it, as long as I'm supporting the IS-5, he's a heavy tank, he can take the hits. If I just sat out in the open and took the hits for the IS-5, well, I'm not going to be much good to him dead. At least in this circumstance, the IS-5 was taking the hits and bouncing them because he had armor, and I, well, wouldn't have bounced anything, so I'd be dead by now. And if I'm dead, I was no good to the team. So yeah, if you're sitting next to something heavily armored on your team, don't sit next to it. Either hide behind it, or find something to hide yourself behind. Now it's just a game of finding the last tank, which just so happened to be coming up my direction. And now we're on the rear end of it. And again, absolutely nothing a turretless tank destroyer can do once one of these are on it. Unless it was against a rock, but even so, you've got the mobility to either get away from the situation or get out of the situation in this thing. And I think that's very key to this. And that's exactly what this tank is all about. I think it's a perfect tank for isolating targets and picking on soul targets. If there is nothing soul, then, well, you are diverted to support fire. Or you go TD hunting for anyone who is at the back of the map, or you look at the group of the enemy and try and pick off the last one. I try to do that every time in this tank. Granted, it doesn't always work perfectly, but playing it like this, it makes it very, very fun and very reliable. I mean, in that game we did 3,861 damage, over 1,000 assistance damage, and a whopping 106,000 credits profit. If you don't have one, it's one of those tanks I would actually strongly recommend you get when it becomes available. If you have already got it, well, I hope this video is of some use. But that is it for now. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.